magnitude alone. Oh, I forgot the annotation. Okay. Okay, by its magnitude alone. So if the quantity only is only defined by magnitude, like for example, area. Okay? So the magnitude of area, or how do we measure area? Diba? For example, in terms of square meters, square centimeters, or square feet. Okay? But no direction. No need for a direction. Okay? Because we're just defining what? A boundary of an area. Same with length, same with mass. We talked about this before. Mass is the definition of mass is the amount of matter present on an object, right? Or on something, or even humans, something like that. So it doesn't require also direction. Okay, same with moment of inertia. Okay, take note, moment of inertia. Okay, this also talks about one of the laws of motion of Newton, right? Also with energy, power, volume, and work. Okay. While for vector quantities, so they are defined by their magnitude as well as direction. Okay, so if the parameter being talked about has magnitude and direction, for example, force. Okay, so we all know force has a magnitude. Like you are pushing something towards a direction, right? So that's why it has a magnitude and a direction. So it's a vector. Okay, moment. So moment, uh, if you recall on your physics, so moment is tendency to what? To rotate, right? Tendency of an object to rotate on a point. So moment also has direction, either clockwise, counterclockwise. So momentum also, later on our final topics, so when we discuss momentum, it also has direction because part of the equation for the momentum has velocity, okay, which is also a vector, velocity, okay? But if we talk about only speed, okay, so this is sometimes the confusion, no, to some. So when we talk about speed, speed is only defined by the magnitude, okay, regardless of the direction. But velocity, okay, so we define velocity with the magnitude and the direction, all right? Then we have acceleration. Also, it has a direction because, for example, the acceleration due to gravity. So gravity has a direction towards what? The one that is pulling. Okay, for example, the center of the Earth. So meaning, usually the direction of the acceleration due to gravity is downward. Okay. So equivalent vector in this sample, operations. Okay. So scalars, the operation is easy. So we any algebraic or mathematical operation that you already know applies to all scalars. Okay, you just either add, subtract, multiply, divide. Okay, because we're only working on the magnitude. But for vectors, okay, so for vectors, when we combine two vectors, for example, you have a vector 1 and vector 2 like this. Okay, when we add them, as you see here, equivalent vector v or v total equals v1 plus v2. So we don't just algebraically the two vectors because they have magnitude and direction. So we will also need to consider the direction. For example, here, vector 1 is pointing to the east, okay, or to the right. Vector 2 is pointing somewhat in the middle of the north and east. Okay, so northeast or on that angle, whatever angle that is. So when we combine the two, so the resulting vector, something looks like this one. Okay, so it's like the resultant of the two vectors combined. So now what we're going to discuss next or on the next parts or when we do the computations is so how to combine the two vectors, magnitude and direction. Okay, so I'm sure you have already discussed this also during your physics class. So this will be just a recall or a review. Okay, so we have two methods there. One is the parallelogram method. The other one is I forgot. I think this is triangle method wherein you will draw a triangle with the two vectors and then the resultant as the either hypotenuse or the longest side. okay, as the resultant. Okay, so triangle method, parallelogram method. So I think you're familiar with that. So we will just revisit or recall. Right? So for example, like I've said earlier, speed. Speed is the magnitude of velocity. Okay, so that's why speed is scalar, velocity is a vector. Okay? And then for three-dimensional spaces like this one, okay? So we have the 3D space or 3D plane, X, Y, and Z. Okay? So I have your X and Y, the normal plane that you know, the Cartesian, and then you have a Z, okay, to make it 3D. So this plane containing I, J, and K, they are what we call unit vectors. So unit vectors, this means they have a magnitude of 1. That's why they called unit vectors, but they define the direction, right? So it's important to be familiar with this because later on, if we reach 3D spaces or 3D resultants or vectors, 3D vector addition or the operations, so we will need to be familiar with this. So I, J, and K, right? So free vectors, we also have free vectors. So those whose action is not confined or associated with a unique line in space. Okay, so example of this is a movement of a body without rotation. Okay, so that one is a free vector. A sliding vector has a unique line of action in space, but not a unique point of application. So when we say point of application, so you know uh, in which point of the body the force is being applied. Okay, so if it is a sliding vector, so the point of application is moving. Okay, and fixed vector. So fixed vector for which a unique point of application is specified. So in this case, it is point A. This one. Okay. So example of this is an action of a force on a deformable body. Okay. So for example, although this is supposed to be a preview only, because this is your next subject for next sem. Let's say you have a cylinder here or a cylindrical tube here, and then force is being applied from the inside, okay, on this point. So that is your unique point of application that is specified. All right. So that point or that force will have an effect on this, let's say, steel tube. Okay. So it will result in a deformation or a strain. Okay, something like that. But that is for your next subject. So for now, we will focus on the rigid bodies. Okay. So for example, this one, on the illustration here, this is your body. This one. Okay. And then it receives a line of force or it receives or a force is being acted on this body on this line. Right. So now if we define or if we point out the vector, so we can put the line of action here of the vector. But at the same time, it is equivalent if we put the line of action on this side of the body, as long as it's still on what the line of action. Okay, so as long as it's still on the line of action within the body, so it's basically the same. Okay, next one we have Cartesian coordinate system. So this is I think already it should be a review or a review only, or you should be familiar with this already, not just from your physics subject, but also on your math subject, I believe. All right. So this should be familiar with you already, especially if you had your uh, topic or subjects of analytic geometry. Okay, I believe this should be introduced there, right? The Cartesian coordinate system, wherein you have the Cartesian plane divided into four quadrants. So quadrant one, uh, your direction of the magnitudes here is defined by both positive x axis and positive y axis. Quadrant 2, negative x, positive y. Quadrant 3, I believe this is a typo. This should be negative. Yeah. So negative x, negative y. And quadrant 4, positive x, but negative y. Okay. Also, the angles. So starting from 0, so our rotation is what? Counter clockwise from 0. So if you reach the y-axis, that's your 90-degree angle. And then if you reach your negative x-axis, that's your 180 degrees. And if you reach your negative y-axis, that's your 270. And if you reach your x-axis again, you made an entire rotation, right? So you will have 360 degrees. No, and it's multiple, 720, what's next? 1080, and so on. All right. So now, aside from this, so I think I also want to add the radian equivalent of the angles so that you're still familiar. Okay. Or if not, so that you're introduced. So we have 0 here. Okay. And uh, if you move on a half circle, okay. So this will be also introduced to you on your secrets too. But that is for next sem. So that's why, or at least now you will have an idea already. So if you move from 0 counterclockwise going to the negative x-axis, okay? So the equivalent angle for 180 is pi, okay? So this is 1 pi. Diba? You're familiar with this. I think the pi that you know is the one with the 3.1416 value, right? But on the Cartesian coordinate system, so the angles are defined in radian by pi, right? So 180 degrees is pi. So meaning your 90-degree angle is what? Pi over 2 or half of that. So your 270 is like 3 times 90. So that is what? 3 pi over 2. And if you rotate full rotation, so if your half rotation is pi, your full rotation is 2 pi. So why is this important? Because sometimes at what will be given is not angles like this, but what? The radian angles. So probably not not on this subject, but we might still encounter it. But you will encounter it also on your other subjects, especially circuits. Okay, so as early as now, you should be familiarized with at least the quadrant angles in radian. Radian. Radians. So radians is used uh, as measurement for what? Rotation. Okay? Rotation or cycle. Okay? So I won't dive in too much because that's for your circuit subjects. So only that you know. Okay? Or at least you're introduced to this. Right? So remember, so again, 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi. And it's, again, it's equivalent or multiple. So you have 4 pi for 720. You have, what is this? 6 pi. Okay? So 2 pi per rotation. Okay? So now on our subject, so most of what we're going to use are the conventional angle notations. Okay? So yung mga naka-degree, right? So for example, you'll have a magnitude here, sample, and then your angle will be from the x-axis. Example like this. Let's say this is 45-degree angle, right? Or it could be reference from the y-axis, something like this. Diba? This is also 45-degree angle. Okay? So what difference does that make? It will differ on the approach that we're going to do during the computations. Okay, this is very important because sometimes when you do the trigonometric formulas, right? In using angles like this, let's say cosine, right? 'Di ba? We define cosine in SOHCAHTOA as opposite over SOHCA. Sorry, not opposite, adjacent. Ka. So adjacent over hypotenuse. All right? So that is for cosine, cosine theta or the angle. So for here, if you're referring on the x-axis and you use cosine, so you'll have your x-axis as the adjacent and the hypotenuse is something like this one. So if you're defining this angle, right? So this is your angle theta and you need to do or you need to use or solve for the cosine of the theta or cosine of 45 for example, but you don't know the angle. What you know is the measurement of the sides. So what are you going to use? Adjacent, right? Adjacent side to the angle over the hypotenuse, right? Because that contains the angle. But here's the thing. If we're going to reference on y-axis and we're using the same, we're using this angle now, the other 45. Okay, this is very important. If this is your, let's say, phi, not theta, and you will need to get cosine, cosine phi from this triangle. Okay, so what will you need to consider? So since we're doing cosine, okay, some of you will get confused and think that uh, that cosine refers to what? Still refers to this, okay, to the x-axis, but it already refers to the y-axis. So still we're going to do adjacent over hypotenuse, but you will now consider y-axis as your adjacent, okay? And then the hypotenuse is still this one, right? Because they contain the angle. So some of those considerations you will need to remember, okay? So later on you will see that when we're dealing with the resultant forces. Okay. So more of that here. So we have a vector here, a sample. So the length of the vector equals the magnitude. Okay, so if you're drawing into scale, okay, meaning how long you draw your for example, that arrow is scaled to the magnitude of the direction. Let's say, what do you mean by scaled? Let's say every 1 cm, for example, this is our scale. Every 1 cm of your measurement, okay, every 1 cm or 1 cm, let's say it means 1 newton. And so for example, in this sample, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this magnitude of the arrow that you draw here, if we're following this scale, is what? 7 newtons. Okay? So that's for the length that is equal to the magnitude. So that's what this means. Okay? Next one, we have the theta as a direction. Okay? Or it defines the direction of of the vector. So the theta is from x-axis going to the vector. Okay, so for consistency, make sure that you draw your arrow. If you're going to draw the arrow for your angle, or you might not need to draw the arrowhead, just do it something like this. But just remember that you're considering a counter clockwise direction. Okay, going there. Okay, so unless we do what? From the y-axis. So you will do the angle from the y-axis clockwise into the vector. And then you will identify your angle here. Let's say this one is the phi. Okay? So from the axis going into the vector. So that's your consideration. So now we have vector A. So vector A is defined or written as this. So vector, it has an arrowhead above. Okay, so that's how you know that it is a vector. So if you write only A, this is just a scalar quantity. Okay? So A or vector A contains both magnitude and the angle or the direction, right? Or A also contains your A sub x or your x component and A sub y or your y component. So which one is this? So we all know A magnitude and theta direction are ito. This is your A magnitude, this one, and then this is your theta, the angle. But which one is AX and AY? AX is the distance, okay, take note of this, the distance of the end of the magnitude from 0 on your x-axis. So this one, okay? So this length, whatever measure that is your AX. So let's say this is hypothetically only. Let's say this is 5. Okay, this is only sample. I'm only estimating. And then, for example, AY is the distance from 0 to the point in y-axis in line with your magnitude. So this one is the AY. This one. Okay, let's say sample only. This is also 5, for example. Same. So that is AX and AY. Why is this important? Because we're going to use this as the components of the forces for our vector. Okay? Also, there might be in cases where you will need to solve for AX and AY. Okay, you will need to solve the component that makes what? The vector. Okay? So for example here, the magnitude A, right? The magnitude is computed by the square root of ax squared. This is not a times x, this is entire ax, okay? And then ay squared, entire ay. So not a times y squared, okay? So take note of that. So the magnitude is, this is what? I think you're already familiar with this. This is the Pythagorean formula, right? Can you recall this? Pythagorean formula, right? So when A is your hypotenuse and then AX and AY are your sides of the triangle. Okay? So I hope you still remember this. And then, how do you get the angle? Using AX and AY. So you will use tangent of the theta. So what is tangent on SOHCAHTOA? Tangent is opposite over adjacent side. So if this is your theta, if and you will need to solve this using AX and AY is your opposite to the angle, AX is your adjacent to the angle. So it's this one. Now, this is very important. So this is solving tangent theta. So to solve theta, the actual angle, you will need to what? Find the inverse of the tangent. So this is tangent inverse. So on your calculator, that's tangent raised to negative 1 or shift tangent on your calculator. Okay, and then AY over AX. Okay, so note, always round off your final answer in 2 decimal places. Okay, so since it's written here, okay, so we'll follow 2 decimal places. So I won't be strict in what to call it, in the decimal places. So you will only need to round off in 2 decimal places. Okay, so no need for 4. I think that's for 4 decimal places is those that will require more precision in the computation. So we're dealing with what? Let's say for example, we're dealing with distances or lengths here. Okay, like centimeters, meters. So 2 decimals is enough. Okay, so let's say for example, 2 meters, 2 point, let's say 55 meters. So the point 55 there, it just means that's about what? 55 centimeters. Okay, more. So no need for further decimals, right? So when you do computation, so remember to round off in two decimal places. Okay, now, like I've said earlier, this is important because if you're computing for the magnitude and the angle of the vector, so you will use these formulas. Now, what if you're to do the reverse process? So, what reverse process, sir? So the reverse process is given the magnitude and the angle of the vector, you will need to solve the components. Okay? So you will need to solve the components. So for that one, so we will need a different method or a different way. So you can't just what? You can't just do the reverse engineering here because you're only given this one and this one. But you will need to do or you will need to solve what? Two unknowns. Okay? So only this and this won't be enough. All right? Although you can just try to what? From the angle, do a tangent of the angle. You will have an idea of ay over ax. But what if the answer is decimal? So what will be what? Or what will be the fraction if the answer is all decimal? So this means your ax and ay here will also be in decimal and not exact or whole number. Okay? So also your equation for this one will be somewhat different. Okay? But you can always what? Do two equations to unknowns because you have here what? First equation, this one, and then you have another equation here. Let's say this one or this one. You can use either as your equation two. So that's actually solvable. Ax and ay. Okay, but you will need to still do what? Algebra. Okay. So up to here, so algebra will follow you from DE, from up to engineering mechanics, up to your circuits. Okay, so whatever subjects that you have computations, you will need to do algebra. Okay. Okay. So again, these are still a part of the terms, right? So now, so we'll have an example here. Okay. So we'll now start with some of the computations. So let's try this one. Okay, you can also you can copy this. You can grab the screen, copy, or however method you want to take note. Because there is a drawing here, right? So we have an example here that says find the magnitude and direction of vectors A, B, and C. So we actually have three, right? So the solution is shown here, but we're going to run through with the solutions. So first we will consider A. So we will need to find the magnitude and direction of A given what? So what is our given? So in our figure, when you look at this, we have a scale here or we have a Cartesian plane with what? Grid lines. So the grid here, okay, so every division or partition of the grid means 1 unit. Okay, so it's just another one. Take note of this. So the unit, okay, I will be strict with the unit. So if there are no units given like this, so you can just let it be. Okay, or you can write units, so that's no problem with me. But, okay, here's our agreement ha. If I indicated a unit on the figures, so for example, I put here 3 cm. 3 cm, something like that. Or on this one, if the scale is like 2 meters, for -4 meters. So if there is a defined unit in the problem, you must include the unit in your, let's say, final answer. Let's say here, or let's say here, or here. Okay? Is that clear with everyone? So I won't be that much strict in terms of decimal. So as long as you are close or very close to the final answer when you round off, but I will be strict on the unit. Okay? Because if you don't put the unit, and let's say on the industry outside, when you graduate or when you're already outside, unit is very important to clients or customers or your stakeholders. Because if that isn't defined, they will get confused. For example, they will need to buy, for example, on structure, they will get confused whether they need to buy 10 centimeters of steel or 10 meters of steel. There is a big difference with that. Okay? So if you didn't put the unit properly or wrongly, okay? So it will directly what? Affect the project or your company or your business or your project. Okay? So that is the importance of being mindful of the unit. So as early as now, so please take note. So we will be strict with the unit. If there's a unit included in the problem, please include it in the final answer. So no unit means wrong answer. Is that clear? Okay. So let's run through with this. We'll focus on vector A first. So this one. Okay. So we have vector A. So vector A is given with its AX and AY. Okay. So I think this was interchange, I believe. This should be your AY. This is your AX. Okay. Remember, AX is your vector's distance from 0 on along your x-axis. Okay. Up to here. So this is your AX. While AY is the distance of your vector, okay, from 0 or from your origin along the y-axis. So that's why it's AY. Okay? Along the y-axis. So it's this one. So that's why this one is AY, this one is AX. So good thing they're both 3. Okay. So let's run through with the formulas. So for the magnitude, so magnitude of vector A is square root of AX squared. So meaning this one plus AY squared. So this one. Okay? So you can try on your calcu whether it's the correct answer. So square root of 3 squared plus 3 squared. So you will have 4.24. So disregard the unit for now because there's no unit naman in the drawing. Okay? So 4.24. So that isn't your final answer yet because we're talking about vector again. You will need to find the direction. Okay? You will need to find the direction. So for example, for this one, so our formula for the angle, okay, angle. So we will need to solve directly the angle. So that is tangent inverse of the, okay. So it was labeled AX, AY. So we need to interchange this as well. This should be AY over AX. Okay, so that you don't get confused. Okay, so again, so that we're uniform or consistent. Okay, so AX is the direction along the x-axis. AY is the direction along the y-axis. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. So, good thing this is both 3. Okay? So, equal. So, your angle is tangent inverse of 3 over 3 or that is 1. So, tangent inverse of 1 is 45. Okay? So, if, for example, you actually draw it on a grid lines and you measure the angle using a protractor or whatever measurement tool you use. So this will yield a 45-degree angle. And then if you, here's what I've talked about earlier. If you measure into scale your magnitude, let's say every one of this is 1 cm. And if you try to measure this on a paper and it's 1 cm, if you measure this one, let's say you're doing actual drawing, you will yield 4.24 cm from this point up to this point. Okay? So let's say you use the caliper so that you will also measure the decimal. So you will yield or you will measure 4.24 cm here. So that's why what we're talking about, that the length equals the magnitude. Okay? And then the angle is your the direction. Okay. So that's for vector A. Now, here's the thing. It's easy to visualize here because what? There's already a given drawing. Okay? There's already a given drawing. But what if, for example, on vector B, the given or only the given is the sign convention of the magnitudes of the components. For example, uh, let's say for example, I remove the drawing. I will just make patong a shape, insert shape. Then I will cover the drawing but bx negative. Okay. Let's say I cover the drawing like this. No more drawing. Okay. So there's no more drawing. And that's what's gonna happen, or that's on your assessments like quizzes, activity, or problem set, or exams. So this might happen, or this might be given to you. No drawing, but the only given for the to solve the vector are the magnitude and sign convention of components. For example, for vector b, the only given will be ah, so the only given will be what I forgot. uh, bx equals negative 3 and by equals 2. All right. So if you forgot the formula, but you understand the Pythagorean from your trigo, something like that, and the angle also, if you know the Sokotawa, okay? So even though the only given are these and not the drawing, okay, like yung drawing here, you can still solve using the formula directly, okay, without the drawing, or you can still visualize because how will we draw bx equals negative 3? So again, x along the x-axis. So on our plane, so that's from origin, and that is negative sign convention. It means it's going to the left, to the negative direction. So that's your 3. And then your by, your 2. So like we've said here is, so we're using triangle method on our analysis here. So what you're going to do is from this point, so it's aligned with the origin still, and then along the y-axis here, right? So you will count 2. So up to here. So that's your 2. So your vector is from origin, you will connect. Okay? So you will form a triangle with this. So that is your vector B. Okay? So if we show on the figure, not that one. So if we show on the figure, tchanan, so it looks something like that. Okay? So this, of course, looks much better than this one, but it's essentially the same. Okay? So now, using the formulas, right? So getting the magnitude of b, you have square root of bx squared plus by squared. So substitute. So don't forget or don't get confused. Okay, in substituting, again, this part is what? Algebra. Okay, so a lot of students get confused or interchange the values. So that's not much of a problem for the magnitude, but for the direction, and you get confused like this one. If you interchange and this is not the other one is not 3. Let's say the other one is 4 on this one. And you interchange AX and AY, you will have a different angle and a different answer. Because that means your reference figure is different. Okay? So that's very important. Now, where are we? Okay, here. So square root of 3 squared plus square root of negative 2, plus negative 2 squared. And then the square root of that, you'll have 3.61. So again, disregard the unit. We don't need the unit yet. Okay? And then for the direction, again, make sure Make sure you input the right value for each one. So by is 2, bx is negative 3. So you will yield here the angle. So here's the thing. So I might need to remove this for now. Okay. So here's the analysis. So although when you try to calculate this, when you try to calculate inverse tangent 2 over 3, can you try doing that on your calculator? I don't have a calculator in me right now. So what will be the answer on your calculator for tangent inverse 2 over negative 3? Sige nga, let's see, let's see. So that we will know, or you will know also, our considerations here. Because on this sample, on this exercise, we're computing for what? The magnitude and direction of the vector on the Cartesian plane. Okay? So our rule is like this. So our rule is the angle, we will always follow the convention that we will use or we will reference the angle from the x or from the positive x-axis. Okay? So that's why you're seeing there's a plus 180. Okay? So what resulted on your calcu for tangent inverse of 2 over 3? You can type in on the chat if you're already done. Or you can unmute also. So what resulted on your calcu? Okay. So the result was negative 33.69. Are you sure? Are you sure that was a negative? Engineering mechanics. Okay. Okay, so if you're sure that that's negative 33.69, so that is negative 33.69. Now, what does that mean? So why did you have or why did you receive a negative angle for your tangent? So that's because that computation, okay? So that computation is for this triangle, as you can see here. So that's for this triangle, wherein you defined your opposite over adjacent, your adjacent negative 3. So on the reverse direction, okay? So if you did that on tangent of, uh, try tangent inverse 2 over 3 or positive 3. So this is what I'm talking about. So if you commit those mistakes, so what will be the result? Tangent inverse 2 over 3. So you can try on your calculator. 33.69. So you will, although you will get the same magnitude of the angle, 33.69, but the sign convention there is very important. Okay? Because we're talking about the angle, not the magnitude. Since we're talking about the angle, negative 33.69 is on a different direction than 33.69. Okay? So 33.69 positive is in this direction. This one. But we're talking about negative, so meaning you have a negative direction. Okay? So it's computed here. So how do we correct or how do we get no so that there's no confusion or we will always have a uniform reference. That's what I told earlier. So we have a uniform reference of what? Positive x-axis. So meaning this angle, right? Although you computed it to be what? Negative 33.69 because it's this one. So we will need to find its equivalent, okay, or its complementary angle that is reference from what? From the x-axis. I think this is another typo. This should be negative. Ayan. Okay, so kindly correct this one. So this should be negative 33.69 and then we added 180. So why did we add 180? Or technically, we will subtract this from 180. Why? So because if you visualize, I will try to erase. so that you can see. There's a lot of annotations already. Sorry. So we'll try to visualize this. Yeah. So we're talking about this angle, right? So we're talking about this angle. This is your negative 33.69. So why did we then 180? Or basically, why would we subtract this from 180? Because we're referencing from the positive x-axis from here going here. Okay? Again, if we are measuring x-axis to negative x-axis, so what is the total? 180 degrees, right? But we're only gonna be measuring up to this vector. Okay? So this part, okay, so I will try to make a different one. Different color. Yellow. Okay. So we only need to determine this angle, right? That's why we subtracted what we computed, the negative 33.69 from the whole 180 here. Okay, so that's why the result is 146.31 degrees. Okay, is that clear to everyone? So although we're following the formula, no, we're following the formula, but the angle should always be referenced from the positive x-axis. Okay, so that we are uniform and you will avoid confusions on the angle. Okay. So, but if our reference is negative x-axis, like on this one, this negative 3, so your angle here is negative 33.69. It means it's going on the clockwise direction, as you can see here. But we're considering counterclockwise. All right. So this is your answer for that. So again, so if if the only given is are the values of x and y components, no figure given, you will have to or you will need to visualize on your own. Okay? Okay. So next one. So we have for vector C. Vector C is what? On this direction. And its components are given by, what is this? So positive 2. So positive 2 on the x-axis, Cx, and negative 4 for Cy. So that's why it's on what? The fourth quadrant. So what will be our computations? So for the magnitude, that is easy. So you just put in the formula, okay, for Pythagorean, and you will arrive here, 4.47. So that's the magnitude. Now for the direction, same with this one, okay? So if you analyze tangent inverse of Cy over Cx, okay? Cy over Cx. So ah, your angle that you will arrive on your calculator is this one, negative 63.43. So why is that? That's because, again, that negative 63.43 is on a clockwise direction from x-axis downward here. Okay, so now you got the idea. So the resulting or your calcu follows this algorithm wherein it will yield a result that is uh, always from the closest axis and then going into the angle like this one. Closest axis is negative x-axis. Going to the vector, negative 33.69. Okay? So it always yields an acute angle, whether positive or negative. And that's the rule or algorithm of the calculator. So so how do we reference it from the x-axis? So we know, okay, this is very important that you know where your vector is on the quadrant. Okay? So that's how you will know what or from what part of the quadrant you will add or subtract your result from. For example, this one. So you yielded negative 63.43. And it's because it's in already in the fourth quadrant. So from your x-axis, the whole is, let's try green. Okay, green. So the whole is already what? Almost 360, right? Almost one rotation already. That one. So this is 360 already. But we're only going to measure up to here. Only up to the vector. That one. So you already have here your negative 63.43. And then you only need up to here. So you will subtract that from 360. So that's why it added 360 here. Hope the idea is clear to you. So the best way is to visualize. So you computed this angle, which is negative. So we will always need to consider the positive angle, which is from the x-axis counterclockwise, regardless of what quadrant the vector is located. Okay, so again, we will always consider the angle from the positive x-axis. So that's why your angle is 296.57 degrees. So this one is your. So far clear? So far learning, everyone? So are there any confusions, questions, clarifications? Ah, okay. Okay, so no confusions, questions? Okay, so let's proceed to the next one. This is another example. What are the others? Oh, okay. Anyway, so we'll just run through here. So as I've said, we're focusing on the lecture during online, and then I might give you sample problems or practice exercises either face to face or I will give you on the Google Classroom, right? The classwork, and then we will discuss the solutions during our face to face. Okay, so that will happen next week. Here we have what is this? Oops, it moved. So next one, we have find the magnitude and direction angle of vector. Okay, you are given a vector negative 3, 4. This is what I'm talking about. You won't be given a figure. Okay, you won't be given a figure, but you will be given like a worded problem like this one. Okay, you will only be given a worded problem like this one. And then you will need to find the magnitude and the direction. Okay? Okay? So same process we did earlier. So for the magnitude of the vector, okay, so for the magnitude of the vector, so we'll use the Pythagorean formula. Okay? So, but before this, here's the thing, if you can draw or visualize, much better. So that you will know how the consideration for the angle works. Okay, but if you can do this all on computations only, no problem. Okay, as long as you can visualize on your head what happened here, right? So for example, this one. So this is found on the second quadrant because negative 3 is negative x-axis and then 4 is positive y. So it's your vector. This is your vector. Okay, so this is your vector. So you have your magnitude as 5. Okay, so square root of 4 squared plus 3 squared. And then your angle is tangent inverse 4 over negative 3. So again, when you input that on your calcu, it will yield a negative 53.13 because that angle is referenced from the negative x-axis. Okay, so this one, let's draw. So that angle is referenced here. So your calcu will compute this way and not this way. Okay? So but what we require is your angle from the positive x. Okay? Okay? So even though your calcu will yield negative 53.13, so you will consider from the positive x-axis, so that's why you added 180. Okay, so I hope the process is clear to you. So your angle should be 126.87 degrees positive. Okay, so this is actually better, a better representation of the magnitude and the angle, or sorry, the magnitude and the direction of the vector. Why? Because if you input here 5 and negative 53.13, okay, you will get confused. Like, what is the reference for negative 53.13? Because I can have a negative 53.13 on the fourth quadrant as well, right? Here. Diba? I can also have a negative 53.13 here. But if we're uniform, no, that all of our angles for the direction in the final answer will be referenced on the positive x-axis. So you know that 126.87 degrees is located here. Okay, is that clear? So far, is that clear for everyone? So that's our uniformity, right? So every time you will compute for the magnitude and direction. No, so for the direction, you will need to consider from the positive x-axis. Okay, okay. So let's have another. I think there's still another example here. Okay. So same thing. So you're given, find the magnitude and direction of the vector negative 2, negative 5. So obviously, this is found on the quadrant 3. Okay, so applying the formula, Pythagorean will have 5.39. So no units indicated yet. And then for the direction, so again, you know that for this one, okay, so you might get confused with this one because your calcu, even though there's negative and negative, your calculator will yield you or give you a positive answer. Okay, so but sir, di ba, we just need the positive angle. But that 68.20, again, your calcu will always give you the acute magnitude of the angle. Okay, if you notice, your calcu haven't given you a 120-degree angle answer on these. So it will always consider the acute. Okay? So to find the acute angle, it will reference on the what? Closest axis that will give the acute angle here. So your 68.20 is actually this. Okay? But again, what do we need? We need to reference from the positive x-axis. So the angle that you need is from here. That's why, again, you will add what? 180. Okay? So 68.20 plus 180, you'll have 248.20. So that's how you know your direction is in the third quadrant. Quadrant. Okay, is that clear to you? So I might give you some exercises for that, no, or sample problems. So let's see if you followed what we've discussed here on the angle considerations, right? Ay, sakto. Okay, so we have exercises here. So you can try this on your own. Although we won't discuss the solutions yet, no, you can just try. This might also appear on your classwork, so you better try this now. Find the magnitude and direction of the angle vector. So the first one you have 3 and negative 10. Okay. So the answer is given here. So I forgot to erase. Okay. So at least you know the reference or the answer. And then for number 2, okay. Draw the vector A. Okay. So you can practice your drawing as well. Draw the vector A to negative 6 and find its magnitude and direction. So like what was done here. So the angle or the vector was drawn and then the solution. Okay, that's what you're going to do for number 2. Okay, so everyone copied already? Or save a screenshot or picture. Okay, so this is for your practice. Okay, so we have next is Cartesian vectors. Okay, so for Cartesian vectors, this is a unit vector, like what we've talked about, is a vector that has a magnitude of 1, and its purpose is to describe a direction in space. So I already told earlier, unit vectors, based on the name, unit, has only a magnitude of 1, but their purpose is to indicate direction. Okay? And we have I, J, and K axes for the Cartesian vectors. Okay? So you will see Z axis or K vector if we're doing 3D. But if we're only doing 2D, two-dimensional, you will only see the x-axis and y-axis and I vector and j vector respectively. Okay? So, for example, this one, now on this figure, you have a vector A again, like earlier, right? You have a vector A here, and it's given by the equation axi plus ayj. Okay? So what is that? Or what does that mean? So remember ax, 'di ba? Ax is what? The magnitude of the length from zero or origin, right? Along the x-axis to the end point of your vector. So this one, 'di ba? This is your ax. Ay is at the same time the length of the vector from zero along the y-axis. So this is your ay. Okay, so what is I and j? So I and j indicates the direction. I means your ax component, okay, ax component is going on the direction of the x-axis, right? Because I corresponds to the x-axis. J corresponds to the y-axis. So that's why it's AYJ. All right? So at the same time, A can also be represented here by what? Negative bxi, then minus byj. So where are those? So you have here vector B and its components. You have bx and by, both positive here. Positive bx, positive by. Now, okay? So now it is said that A can also be represented using the negative of bx. So meaning the magnitude of bx and ax are equal. Okay? Because if you rotate bx here, okay, this is your negative bx. If you rotate by upward, this is also your negative by. Same thing here. This is your negative ax, right? And this is your negative ay. Okay? So I hope that's clear to everyone. No. So now, so when we combine a plus b, so the a vector and b vector, so we combine the two vectors here. So what will happen is you'll have this is a, right? Axi plus ayj plus b, which is also what? Negative bxi minus byj. Okay, so like this one. And then we combine the like terms, which is you have I here and I here. You also have j here and j here. So we will factor them out. It will yield axi minus bx. I think this should be ax only. So no I there. So ax minus bx times I plus ay minus by times j. So that is what? The resultant of these two vectors, a and b. Okay? So for example here, so we have example 4, find the components of a unit vector in the direction of vector 3, 4. So again, we'll need to visualize that. So 3, 4 is found on what? Quadrant 1. Okay? So for the vector magnitude, that's easy, diba? So also still Pythagorean formula. So you'll have 5. Now for the what is asked is the components of the unit vector. Okay? So for the unit vector, since now we know that 5 is your hypotenuse, right? On your triangle here, this is your hypotenuse. So for the unit vector, you have ax and ay. Okay? Or sorry, a this is unit vector already. Okay, components. So you'll have here your for x component, you'll have your adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's why you had 3 over 5. For your y component, you have here opposite over hypotenuse. So that's how you got 4 over 5. Okay, so this one, right? And including the direction. So this is only the magnitude. So for the direction, including the direction, your 3 over 5 here for your unit vector is then multiplied by what? The I vector or I unit vector. Because like we said, unit vector I is corresponding to the x-axis. Unit vector j is corresponding to the y-axis. Okay? So your unit vector representation of your vector here, let's say this is your vector A, or sorry, vector U, because we're using U, unit. Let's say this is your vector U. Your unit vector representation is 0.6 I and 0.8 J. So this already contains magnitude and direction. Okay? So same thing with example 5. Find the components of a unit vector in the direction of the vector 1/2 and 1/8. So now you're given fractions. So we will still follow Pythagorean formula. Okay, so square root of the sum of the squares. So you have 0.52. And then same pattern here, right? This is just very small here. I don't think you can still see this, but it still looks the same because 1/2 and 1/8 are both on ano, quadrant 1. Right? So now, so to represent the unit vector component, okay, so you need to do, or basically what you need to find for the unit vector component are what? AXI and AYJ. Okay? So for AX, you will need, for the X component, you will need what? Adjacent over the hypotenuse. So that's 1/2 over 0.52 times I. And then for the Y component, you will have opposite over hypotenuse, right? So that's why you have 1/8 over 0.52 times J, okay, the direction vector. So you will yield here 0.96 I, 0.24 J for your unit vector components. Okay, so that's the process of determining the components of a unit vector. Okay, so is this clear to everyone? So far clear? Okay. So I'll give you time to absorb, or if anyone wants to go back to some slides, please do so or please request so we can return to those slides if you need to screenshot or copy. Okay? So just give me about 2 minutes also. Okay. So are there any questions, clarifications, confusions? Want to start from the top again? So if we're going to start from the top, we're going to start with the syllabus. If you want to start from the top. So just to make sure we don't miss out anything. Okay. So I hope you're clear on this one also. If you can take a screenshot already or copied it. Okay, so we will transfer into the next slides. So I will need to stop sharing first so I can shift. So the next part, so this is a continuation also. So the next part are for system resultants. Okay, so now that you're reintroduced or you now have an idea again on how to do the resultant, okay, or how to get the resultant or the magnitude and the direction of a vector based from its what components, because what's being given earlier, the ax, the ay, okay, those are components or direction of the components. All right, so that's why you need to practice also on analyzing what direction the components are going. Okay, whether they're going negative x-axis, negative y-axis, or positive x or positive y. So it's only among those four. All right, so it's always only among those four, unless your component forces or your vectors that we're going to add, like what we're going to do here, are both with angles. Okay, so meaning not on the x-axis directly or not on the y-axis directly. Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss next. Force system resultants. So force systems, so basically it's the manifestation of action of one particle on the other. Right? So for example, you're pushing an object. So the force there is you, the manifestation of your action of pushing on an object. Or for example, you're being pulled, let's say by a car. And what scenario are you gonna be pulled by a car, right? So for example, you're being pulled by a car. So the force there is the action or the manifestation of action of the car pulling you. Okay. So in whatever way. So whether you have a skateboard or you're lying down and you're getting pulled, okay, torture. So it is a vector quantity. Okay, so force is a vector quantity because it has magnitude, direction. Point of application is it means the point of action or the origin of the force. Okay, and the line of action. Right. So force is represented as a vector. So an arrow and magnitude, like what you've seen earlier. Okay. So force systems. So for the first force shown in the figure, so the magnitude of the force is 4 kilonewtons. Okay. So now take note. We now have units here. Okay, units considered are given. So take note on your final answers from here on. You will need to consider also the units. Okay. So I have 4 kilonewtons. The direction is 40 degrees with the horizontal. Okay. So what does that mean? 40 degrees with the horizontal. And then in fourth quadrant. So take note, it was mentioned which quadrant. So again, that's why it's important to practice visualizing. Point of application is C. So from here, and line of action is AB. So this entire line from A to B. Okay, so that is your line of action. Okay, but your point of application is only on point C. So not necessarily on what? Not necessarily on the origin, like earlier. But still, your angle of the direction is what? 40 degrees. Or from this horizontal, right? Like similar angles, this angle is still, this is still 40 from the horizontal. Okay, so that's how you visualize. Smaller magnitudes of forces are measured in Newton and larger are in kilo Newton. Okay? So when a mechanics problem or system has more than one force acting, so it's now known as a force system or system of force. So we will call it more often force systems. So it's easier to say. Okay. So now force systems. So we're going back to terms for now. Okay, so that we're going to finish the terms for this part. So force systems have different types. Okay. So the two major types you have coplanar and non-coplanar. So coplanar forces basically the force systems there lies on the same. Okay, so this is what you need to remember. Coplanar, they lie on the same plane. Okay? Non-coplanar, they don't act or lie on or not on the same plane. By plane here, I mean a plane surface, not not an airplane. Okay, not this airplane. So this plane. Okay. So but they're on the same airplane. No, on a plane surface. Okay. So examples of coplanar forces or types. Okay, subtypes. Subtypes of coplanar forces you have collinear. Okay, so collinear forces. Uh, are they gonna be discussed here? Okay, there. So I wanted to elaborate already, but they're on the next slide anyway. So examples of coplanar, we have collinear, parallel forces, concurrent, and non-concurrent forces. Okay, so that's examples of coplanar. Examples of non-coplanar, you have also parallel. Okay, parallel forces can also be coplanar. Concurrent and non-concurrent can also be non-coplanar. As at the same time, they can also be coplanar. Okay? So the only one that cannot be coplanar is collinear. So collinear can only be coplanar also because when we mean collinear, it looks like this. So the forces are on the same line, but an entire line can only be what? Drawn on a same plane. You cannot draw a same line extending infinitely on a different plane. Let's say you have, let's try to draw a different plane. Okay, for example, you have for, for example, this is 3D. It looks 3D now. Okay. For example, this line is considered here. Okay, so that line extends on this direction, not on this direction. So meaning the collinear forces here can only be considered coplanar if they are on the same plane. They cannot be coplanar if the lines here are going up on a different plane. Okay? So that's what it means. But parallel forces, concurrent and non-concurrent, can be either coplanar or non-coplanar. Okay? So what else? So we have coplanar systems. So when the lines of action or a set of forces lie on a single plane, okay, on the same plane. And then collinear forces, like what I've already mentioned. So lines of action act along the same line. Okay, so that's collinear. Collinear, same line. So that's what you need to remember. Parallel forces. So we're going to do a lot of this on the next computations or problem solving. Parallel forces, forces that act on the same or opposite directions at different points on an object or on a plane, either object or plane. Like I've said, they can be coplanar and non-coplanar. Okay, so they can also be same direction but still parallel. So what do you mean by parallel? So the line of forces will never meet. Okay, so they're not destined to meet each other. Okay, but they can also go from same direction, although they won't meet, or different direction. Still, they won't meet. Okay, so that's for parallel forces. Next one, we have non-coplanar force system. So non-coplanar. So when the line of action of all forces do not lie on one plane, so it's called non-coplanar. So usually the scenario here is either they are in a three-dimensional space. Okay, so that's how they become non-coplanar, or they act on different bodies that are interconnected as well. Okay, so different plane, but There's something that connects the bodies that the forces are acting. Okay? Concurrent force systems. So for concurrent force systems, so the forces when extended, okay? So not necessarily that the forces meet each other right away. But if you extend the line of action, right? The line of action of the forces, like in this example, if they will meet on the same point at a certain point when they are extended, they are still considered concurrent. Okay, so this is one scenario. Another scenario is if they are originating from a single point. Okay, so this is also concurrent. Okay, so two scenarios, both are concurrent. So again, concurrent forces may or may not be coplanar. Okay, so they can act on a 3D space, three-dimensional space, but still originate or converge towards a single point. All right. Non-coplanar systems. So the difference is when you extend, or for example, you have an origin point, and the forces really just don't intersect on one point. So they intersect somehow, but not on a single point. So they are non-concurrent. Similarly, if you have a body and then the forces are acting on the external parts of the body, you can visualize right away if they are concurrent or non-concurrent. But if you extend their line of action like this one, you will see the lines do not intersect with each other, or all the lines do not intersect with each other on a same single point. So these forces are all non-concurrent. Okay. So now we have some let's say combination, right? Combination of the situation. For example, coplanar and at the same time concurrent. So what does that mean? Or on this sample. So this is a force system which all forces lie in a single plane, right? Single plane, right? You can draw a plane here and all of the elements will still fit and meet at one point. So for example, the forces acting on a roof truss like this one. Although, okay. So the lines of action here of the forces, let's say we're talking about coplanar and concurrent. Okay. So let's say you have this given loads, 1,000 Newton, 3,000 Newton, 1,000, 1,000. So given on these points, okay? So for each point, let's say on point A, so the forces acting here are the 1,000 Newton load, the force that acts on this element, AF, and the force that acts on this element, AB, and your support. So there's a support here, okay? Let's say this, for example, this is a pin. This one is a roller. Are you seeing the small wheels there? Yeah. For example, this is a pin support. So there's a force being applied also on that support. Okay? So those forces, the pin, 1000 Newton, AFAB, they are both coplanar concurrent. So on point D, for example, the forces acting on D are 1000 Newton, ED, okay, element ED, DC, what else? DB. Okay? So I think that's it. So there's no support here already. So those forces are both coplanar and concurrent. Okay? So coplanar and concurrent. Next one, you have coplanar and non-concurrent. So still on the same plane but not acting on what? On the same point. Okay? So for this one, the forces here given are let's say this one, 100 pounds going here and 100 pounds going here. So those two are coplanar, they are on the same plane, but not on the same point. They're parallel forces actually. Also, the force acting here and the force acting here, okay? So there are still coplanar, but again, non-concurrent. Or when you consider all of the forces here, they are all coplanar, but all non-concurrent. Okay. So now we have non-coplanar, meaning not on the same plane, but still concurrent. So if you see an electrical pole outside, okay, when you walk home or when you travel, you see there are, for example, different wires. Okay, but going towards different directions. Okay, okay. So uh you have different wires going on different directions. So basically, the tension there, so the T that you're seeing here, those are the forces. Okay, so those forces act on the same point. Okay, so they converge here on this point, but since the line of actions of those points are on different planes, so they are non-coplanar. Okay, and last, I think this is the last one. We have non-coplanar and non-concurrent. So this is what I told earlier. They're acting on what? Different sets of objects already. So P1, P2, P3, and P4 are acting on four different beams, but those beams are actually somewhat coplanar because they support what? Uh, they are being supported by a rectangular mat foundation. Okay, so those columns. But the forces acting on them are all non-coplanar because they're acting on different planes already and non-concurrent. Okay? So now, so earlier, right? So what we did earlier is to what? Get the value of the vector in terms of magnitude and the direction angle, right? Now, as I've said, you might also be asked to compute or to get the component of the given vector, magnitude and direction. So meaning what will you need to do or get is the component forces. So what are those component forces? You have Fx and Ay. Or earlier, this was the what? Ax and the By. Okay? So for uniformity and so that we'll know that the components are the components of vector or force F. Okay? So we will label this as Fx or f of x and f of y. Okay? Or f sub x, f sub y. Right? So we will use this notation here. Okay? So like I've said, we'll do somewhat of a reverse process, right? Because earlier we used the components to get the resultant. Okay? But now we will use the resultant given to get the component. So to do that, we will need these two equations. So please remember this formula you will use. So for component x or the horizontal component, we will use f, which is the magnitude of the vector resultant earlier, cosine theta. Okay? So cosine of the angle. Again, take note, the angle considered should be what? From the positive x-axis. So for uniformity and to avoid confusion also. Fy, right? The vertical component of the force, we will use F sine theta. Right? So F sine theta or the sine of the angle from the positive x-axis. So again, important. That's why I told you to practice or be familiar with always considering the angle from the positive x-axis counterclockwise. All right? Oh, not this one. Okay? So for example, this is just medyo blurry. So I will try to sharpen this. So resolution of a force into components for design conventions. Okay. So for second convention, so for x components, so again we will follow the Cartesian, right? So going to the right, if it's going to the right, so that's positive. If it's going to the left or to the negative x-axis, so negative. Y components going upward or positive y, positive. Going downward or the negative y, so that is negative. Okay, so just basically it. Okay, so let's do one sample. I think. It's only one example here. Uh, okay. So I might leave this one to you as an example or assignment. So I will try to lighten the drawing. So so let's determine. So I will try to redraw. Determine the components of force P. So we have a force P here, P, okay, equals 40 kilonewton. Okay. Along X and Y. So here's your X and Y as shown in the figure. So this is your X axis and this is your Y axis. Wow, I'm drawing straight lines. I'm so great. I'm so great. And your angle is 30 degrees. So this is 30 degrees. Ayan. So you have a 30-degree angle here. This is your vector. I'm still growing. Great. Okay. So you're asked to what? Solve the x component fx using f cosine theta and fy using f sine theta based here and here. So it's just what? Direct substitution. Okay? So you have 40 kilonewtons and then 30 degrees as the angle. So direct substitution, this is already referenced, right, on the x-axis. So no problem with that. So direct sub. So it will yield for px, since the given variable for the force is p, so we'll get p of x, so p cosine theta, substituting the magnitude of the resultant, right, or the vector, 40 kilonewton, and then times cosine 30 degrees of the angle. So you will have your px. Your answer is 34.64. Again, take note of the unit. And also, by the way, so I will also be strict with the direction. Since we're dealing with vectors here, so I will be strict with the direction as well. Okay? As well as the unit. So this is 34.64 kilonewton going where? Okay, so that's the question. So going where? So it said here, take note, the drawing says that the vector, okay, look at the arrowhead I draw. So this wasn't a mistake. I draw the arrowhead going in this direction. Okay? So you might get confused. So why did you draw the x and y axis like that? So this is only an assumption. Okay? So this is only an assumption that we're doing the referencing, okay, on the x-axis. Remember, we're always gonna do the referencing of the angle on the x-axis. So that's why we drew it like this. Okay? But as you can see, from this angle, right? From this angle, the cosine 30 here being used here, and the drawing of the arrowhead, I think I want to redraw again. So this is your vector P. Okay, so the direction is obviously going where? On the third quadrant, right? Okay, when you draw it on the Cartesian plane like that. Okay, so the 30 degrees angle here from the horizontal, okay, so from the horizontal is something like this. So if this is your 30 degrees, as given on the figure, right? This is your line of action, right? Now, if you extend, okay, if you extend this P, okay, the line of action, what will you get here? So the angle from the negative x-axis is what? Also 30, right? 30 degrees. So that's what happened here. That's why the direction of your px is to the left, or you can write to the left. Okay, so either this or draw this notation. Okay, so either way I will accept. All right, so is that clear to everyone? So again, I will be strict with the direction and the unit. So x component here. So the breakdown of P, okay, for the x component is P cosine theta, wherein this is your magnitude, and then the direction based on the angle is going to the left. Another approach that you can do here. Okay, let's say uh, the direction of the vector is clear to you or given. Let's say this one. This is what I do. No, this might still be confusing to you. If this is your P, okay? If this is your P, and obviously you know that is what? This is third quadrant, right? The direction is going to be third quadrant. But the given in the drawing is what? 30 degrees from the x-axis, right? This one. Okay? So you can draw, this is what I do. You can draw the components like this. Since you already know that this is your P, your vector, and we know from earlier that the vector is always what? Somewhat enclosed by the components as we've tried earlier. Or sorry, on the other this was on the other slide, right? For example, in this slide, I will switch. Okay. So although it's almost time, I will switch slides quick so that you can see part 2. From here, you can see we have the given vector, right? And then, as you can see from the drawing, this is the vector. Okay, you can observe that is somewhat enclosed by the x and y axis this way. Negative x-axis, negative x-axis, and the positive y-axis. You see this part? Okay. So now, if you will need to get the component of the vector given, so I will switch again. Okay, like on our example now. And somewhat the given figure is confusing because why is the arrowhead pointing towards the origin, right? You might ask or you might be wondering. So for you to easily understand, you can just draw it like this. You can draw again the x and y axis this way from the what? What do you call this? Point of application. Right? Remember point of application. So you can draw the x and y mini x and y axis on the point of application, and then this is what you're going to solve. This is your px and this is your py. Okay? So now you already have an idea about the direction because you're now sure that px will go this way, py will go this way. Okay? So that you won't get confused. Okay, is that clear? So now regarding the angle, again, this is very important regarding the angle. If you're considering the 30 degrees from the horizontal or the x-axis, whether this way or this way, your 30 degrees, this is still from the horizontal. You will follow the px is equal to p cosine theta, and then the py is p sine theta. Okay? So what we did here is to get the py, this one, sine theta. So 40 kilonewtons sine theta, you got 20 kilonewtons. And as you see here, the direction is downward. It follows our convention, right? We enclose the vector from the point of application with our x and y component. Okay? Is that clear to you so far? Right? So if you have no problem following this given figure, that's good. But if you're confused somewhat with this figure, you can try this approach. So you have your given, and then from the point of application, you will draw a mini x and y, and that mini x and y will be your uh, px and your py that you're going to solve. And what about the angle, sir? So this angle, you will just need to relocate this angle. Just make sure that if it's on the horizontal, you will draw it here on the horizontal because that's following what? Law of angles, right? This is what you call similar angles on uh, opposite. I forgot the exact term. So opposite angles that are intersecting lines. Yan. Okay? So just make sure that you draw it or relocate it on the right side because if you draw the 30 degrees here, your solution will be different. Okay? So make sure that is you follow the angle you will draw on the horizontal or from the horizontal. Okay, so another sample here. I'm not sure if there's another sample. I might just give this on the classwork, the next one. So that you can practice. So another sample, let's say this one. We'll take one of this. So let's say you have on the sample there. We still have 2 minutes, and you can now take your lunch or rest. Okay. So for example, we have this vector. Okay. So you tell me. Let's say this we have a vector p again. So we're not going to solve for the value of the component forces. I just want to ask you the direction. So what will be the direction of the px or the x component? Is it to the left or to the right of that vector p? So anyone? We still have 1 minute. Okay, let's go. We will go to the right. Okay, so if we follow this convention, right? The point of application, and we'll draw the mini x and y. So px will go to the right. How about py? What is the direction of py when you solve? Going up. Okay. So this one. So whatever computation you'll have, okay, when you get your answer, because you visualize the vector and the components, you already know the direction even before you compute the answer or the magnitude. Okay, so I hope that's clear to you. That's very important technique. Okay, when you're solving for the components of the vector. Okay, so may questions, clarifications before we end. Okay, so again, Monday. So I think that's already announced already or final to us also that we won't have synchronous class. So we will do a synchronous, asynchronous class for Monday for both DE and engineering mechanics. So I might give out some sample problems also for engineering mechanics that you can try solving resultant of the vector from the components and vice versa, the reverse. Getting the components from the given vector. Okay? Is that all right? So just wait for the announcement or uploading of the classwork for Monday. Okay? So I'm just formulating the instructions or the questionnaires or the questions. Okay? So if there are no more questions, I know you're very hungry now or the others are very